months to come. Now, after the visit of our president to China, bringing with him, of course, more than 24 billion of foreign direct investment and soft loans, China made a statement that it said that nothing has changed there. No concessions. Now, sir, I'm just thinking about after the pronouncement of our president that we're veering away from the United States. I'm just thinking about how our national interest to be best served. Should China come up with activities that are inimical to the decisions of the UN Arbitral Tribunal, such as another reclamation, another declaration of the reassertion of Lanka's land? Please comment on that.
Hello. How many hours do we have? Colonel Francis. Let me begin by saying that right after we obtained the favorable ruling from the arbitral tribunal, Secretary of State John Kerry flew to Manila and spoke to President Duterte. And there are two things he said. Please don't do anything that will complicate the situation with China, now that you have the favorable ruling. In other words, don't try anything fancy. Right? The other is, we encourage you to expand your bilateral relations with China, to discuss things over with them regarding your issues in the West Philippine Sea. What did that tell us? What was the message, supply message behind that? No war. Let's just work things out. The United States has no appetite for war, especially with China. Why? You know, all these things that have been happening over the past 4 years. The artificial islands in the KIG, the woolly island in the Paracels, and now the informal annexation of Scarborough. It's all part of their strategic intent to control the South China Sea. And who is the target? The United States, not the Philippines. What has the United States done all these years while watching China doing that? Nothing, except for token flybys and show the flag, freedom of the seas operations, but we're not really so. It's just all for show. That told President Digo that the Americans really have no intention to confront China and go to war, but to work things out diplomatically, no matter how long it takes. Why? Because they're both economically intertwined. When President Duterte appointed former President Ramos as the special envoy to China to break the ice in preparation for his trip to China, there were two things that we said we would undertake. Two missions. One mission was constructive engagement, to discuss with China areas of peace and cooperation, notwithstanding our contentious issues with them. The other was preventive diplomacy, which would mean working with the international community through the years, because it's going to take years, to convince China to return to peaceful rights. Because it really doesn't make sense for countries to go to war when there are much larger interests, common interests that we have to address, like survival as a species against pandemics, against climate change, and for that matter, even preventing nuclear, biological, and radiological war, or all-out war. In fact, when President Ramos talked to his counterparts in Hong Kong, while we did talk about hey, this is ours, and the other side said, no, no, this is ours, we immediately drew the line and enunciated our national positions. We also very quickly moved to discussions where we could cooperate. And one of the things that was elevated by President Ramos for discussion in the spirit of universal brotherhood, human and ecological security, peace and cooperation, and all those wonderful idealistic things, was for the countries of the world under the United Nations to adhere to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. If everybody just latched onto that, then we would really have no appetite to fight each other. We'd rather collaborate and cooperate with each other to improve the situation of the planet. So that's what we set out to do, and fortunately the items that we identified in the joint statement, which were the seeds for future confidence building measures that would eventually help both sides regain mutual trust and confidence in each other, that would then lead to bilateral negotiations. In other words, it's sequential. Were laid out in the joint statement. Those points were later on incorporated in the joint communique between President Xi Jinping and President Duterte at the conclusion of the trip. Which means that now we have the work cut out for us between us and China. We have to flesh out the various confidence building measures that were pointed out, and then work for it. Work for it until such time, until such point in time that we've regained or recovered enough trust and confidence to really engage in meaningful bilateral negotiations. When Colonel Flores and General Galang and I joined the PCFR in a track 2 dialogue 3 weeks after the Hong Kong trip, the Vice Minister for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Lucian Min, echoed what we talked about in Hong Kong, that it's going to take time for both sides to work for a recovery of mutual trust and confidence. And that's partly because, in the case of China, the Chinese are taught early, young age, and throughout their period in school, that they own the South China Sea. And there's what, 1 billion of them? More than 1 billion of them. So for China to now deconstruct and say, hey, we made a mistake, it's not pala, according to the arbitral tribunal, we don't own the South China Sea. Can you imagine the turmoil inside? So they'll have to manage that. And we must understand that even if they know that we're right, they're not going to admit it. Right? So we'll have to work it out in such a way that we still will be able to win their hearts and minds. That they'll be able to collaborate with us or cooperate with us, notwithstanding the fact that we have contentious issues that will take a long, long time before we can finally reach a resolution. I don't know if I answered your question, but
you have 1 more hour. No, okay, but I think this is a very good point.
I was also asked a question. If you mentioned my name, you know, in Congress, when your name is mentioned, you have to talk. But here's my take on China. You have to look at the long-range strategy of China. Their goal is to be the #1 power by 2049. That's written. That's 100 years from 1949. That's very clear. That's in their books. That's in their strategic paper. And what do they have to do? They have to push out the United States from the Western Pacific and even beyond. And we just happen to be part of the geography. Just like during the greater East Asia co-prosperity sphere, when Japan wanted to install themselves to replace the colonial powers in the French Indochina, that's East Indies, Philippines was part of it unavoidably because of our geography. We just happen to be part of the plan. And it's exactly the same thing today. If you look at the movements of China today, there's the so-called maritime silk trade. The objective is to entice many countries to be part of their $10 trillion trade. Imagine 10 trillion. The GDP right now is 10 trillion, but they're talking of $10 trillion trade over the years. And they have this string of pearls strategy, where the objective is to also dislodge India from the Indian Ocean. That's why they are dealing with Myanmar, they're talking with Malaysia. They just scored a coup in Malaysia with a largesse of about $34 billion. In Bangladesh, President Xi Jinping just came from Bangladesh and left with about $34 billion also. In Pakistan, which is primarily the country they're using as a counterpoint against India, they're giving about $50 billion. In fact, China, I just came from there. China is very, very popular in Pakistan because of the financial assistance and because they're helping Pakistan as a counterpoint against India. You know, Pakistan and India have no love lost. They're almost on the verge of nuking each other in 2002. I know that because I was the NSA at that time. And then they go all the way to Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, they left about $1.4 billion for port development. In Maldives, the same thing. Now they're setting up a base in Djibouti, in the Horn of Africa. And all this money is not for friendly purposes. It's for strategy. It is what you call soft power. Hard power would be they send a flotilla of Coast Guard ships, even some destroyers or frigates beyond the horizon, ready to help their Coast Guard ships, or send a $1 billion oil rig into the exclusive economic zone of Vietnam. So, I'm sorry, but I cannot trust China here because of this long-term strategy. China is like a man courting a girl. You know, when a man is courting a girl, Madam Ferrer, bibigyan ka ng regalo. And you know, when you speak of independence, sir, your independence can be compromised by two things: hard power, in other words, using force or the threat of force, or soft power. In either case, you lose your independence because of gifts. For example, in the case of Pakistan, Pakistan cannot say that they're independent of China because they need China, not only for their infrastructure projects, but they need China for their dealings with the much bigger India. And China needs Pakistan because they also want to more freely move in the Indian Ocean. So the claim is there. They're not renouncing their claim. That is the permanent thing. That is permanent. All this assistance, of course, we benefit from that. It's good that we're having that. But we don't know what will that be. We have the United States, for example. There's so many things that we can complain about the United States. That's true.